people don't come into IIM thinking कि उनको consulting करना है. People come into IIM thinking अब मुझे 1 crore की job लगने वाली है. Just because you're working hard doesn't mean you have the right to exist as a company, right? The customer has to be happy. Even if you work less, it doesn't matter. But the customer has to be happy with what you're offering, and then you'll exist. If that base is bigger, then you become bigger.
I have with me Pradeep here. Can we have a big round of applause for Pradeep, please? I'm not going to tell you what Pradeep's profile is because that's exactly what we are going to discuss in this video. Pradeep, make yourself comfortable. I know this seat is a little, too high, but I think we'll manage. Please have a seat.
You've put me in a pedestal and I'm going to break all of that down.
Superb. That's the whole idea.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I think we have a lovely audience that's come down, and also look forward to sort of sharing what has gone well, what has not gone well, and all of that. Right?
Superb. Pradeep, thank you very much for taking out time. I know you're a busy man, but it's a Saturday and we got an opportunity to call you here. Pradeep, first, it's like a confession. जो हम चर्च में जाके करते हैं, the confessions. मैं पहले ही confession करना चाहता हूँ. ना तो मैं IIT गया हूँ, ना मैं IIM गया हूँ. तो मुझे नहीं पता कि IITM की लाइफ क्या होती है. So I have absolutely no clue. I'm sure some of these people might have that clue. But थोड़ा और idea लेते हैं. क्या होता है IITM की लाइफ में? Did you have that idea when you started off, like 12th के बाद when you were preparing for engineering, I guess? सबसे पहले तो were you passionate to do engineering? कोई होता है passionate engineering करने के लिए?
Actually, idea नहीं था कि IIT क्या है. And I think the first time I realized what is IIT is when one of my schoolmates at the end of 10th standard said कि मैं कोटा जा रहा हूँ. And I was like, मतलब तुम Santa Cruz में थे, ये कोटा कहाँ है, क्या है? And that's when he said, अरे IIT होता है, it's a ये. And I realized that there's something out there. It seems like, sort of a very competitive thing to get into, etc. One place which was actually right opposite my house, and it was a good coaching class, is what I got to know later, right? So just joined in there, and then, but from there I really enjoyed what I studied in my 11th and 12th for JEE preparation, right? Not for...
You enjoyed that?
I enjoyed that part a lot, but basically did those 2 years purely for the joy of sort of what I was learning at that point, with some competitiveness that was always there. There's an exam we need to sort of crack. Got an okay-ish rank, so nobody enters into JEE saying कि ये rank मिलेगा और ये करूँगा, right? There's hardly few, right? They're the geniuses, to be honest, right? And then whatever rank I got, basis that I took whatever I need to do. Had no clue what engineering is all about, right? But by the end of 11th standard and before sort of 12th standard is when I realized this thing seems to be very prestigious, because a lot of friends, relatives keep asking कि कैसा चल रहा है, हो जाएगा क्या, right? And nobody asked me that during 10th standard. People assume कि 10th तो pass हो जाएगा, right? But this seemed like a more sort of a thing कि अरे हो जाएगा कि नहीं, and that sort of happened. But no clue about engineering में क्या होने वाला है or anything.
Was there any family pressure from anybody that you have to be there? What was your background like? Father engineer थे या फिर कोई और family में था जिनको देख के आपने idealize किया and you thought that this is where I want to be?
Actually no, वो नहीं था. I think my parents have always been supportive about पढ़ाई करो, सीखो and work hard. No one from sort of no IIT alumni in the family, so I think that ways there was no pressure. I am not the sporty kind, you can clearly see, right? So there's no IPL career that's going to be built any which ways, right?
But were you into sports? Like, did you play that when you went in?
So among sports, I used to play cricket really well on days when I carried the bat and ball, because that's when I got to play.
Right? Lovely.
Otherwise it's okay. I mean, I like playing carom and TT, so the more indoor sports, right? Football was more better when you watch it rather than me playing it. So no, definitely not the sporty kind, yeah.
So when did you get to know that you'll be traveling all the way to Madras for IIT Madras that you were part of, and were you happy with that, whatever you got, or you were aiming for something else at that point?
Quite frankly, I think 90% of it was to clear JEE, to be honest, right? There was no ये कि हाँ ये करना है वो करना है हाँ. I think everybody who gives JEE thinks कि यार अगर computer science मिल जाएगा, but I realized very early कि वो मेरे से नहीं होने वाला, right? That is, like I said, there are geniuses who crack it, definitely not there. Had to just ensure कि I clear JEE. Right? That was the only sort of thing that was in mind. Chennai happened primarily as a function of rank plus what I wanted to do. I had the good fortune of talking to one or two folks who told me, no, between a BTech and dual, do BTech, right? The end outcome is the same, etc. One of my cousins had really advised me saying, ki, hey, go live in a hostel, your life will change.
Did you?
100%. Highly recommend folks to live in a hostel. The stuff you learn, how you go through that transformation is phenomenal, right? So I would highly recommend. So I'm happy now that, that I didn't study at IIT Bombay. I didn't get in as well, so I can really say that, but still, right?
Let's suppose that आपको IIT Bombay मिल जाता. What would you have preferred? Like IIT Bombay में रहना prefer करते या फिर मद्रास जाके there's different set of people that you're going to meet, different conditions, different institute. क्या prefer करते हैं?
So really depends on when you're asking me, right? So if it was at that point, I would have said IIT Bombay because a lot of my friends got in, right? But if you ask me now, I think Chennai was a great place. IIT Madras is an excellent institution. And not just because, sort of I got to go out of home and live a hostel life, but beyond that as well. I think it's a really good institute as well. So.
Super. So during your time at IIT, what exactly happened that made you think that, the next set of actions that I'm going to take from here is going to get into a management institute? Did that idea formulate during your time there, or you were sure that this is the kind of path that I want to walk in? कि मुझे IIT ख़त्म करनी है, IIT के बाद काम वाम करना है थोड़ा सा, and then I'll get into an IIM, solid life होगी फिर उसके बाद.
So no, I had actually no plans. I'm not that like that planned or a researched sort of person, right? To take such a long time view. Idea was to sort of just go in and go with the flow, to be honest. So I wasn't a 5-point someone, but I was not a 9-point someone as well, right? Over there. And in many of these institutes, you meet folks from all over India. And that is a completely different perspective, right? Because all of them have gone through very different journeys to come to this place, which has a very similar journey from the outside. And then you go in, then there are just so many journeys within sort of the institute as well. And that is really amazing. And you can chart your own path and you can make decisions for yourself. Ki, haan, ye karna hai. Do I need to be sort of the department topper to then... 100% not, right? Very far from it, right? And then you go on to sort of do a master's and specialize in one of the subfields, etc. Typically outside India, right? And the other path is to just sort of be part of multiple initiatives, be it cultural festivals, etc., etc. Sports also, but I didn't include it in my list, right, clearly. So, and then, sort of enjoy that phase, meet good friends who become sort of your friends for life and all of that.
But what was your idea? Like you wanted to get in a company, work for some time and then go do an MBA, or you wanted to straight away go do an MBA? What was that idea?
I think the second year-ish, the third year-ish, I want to work for some time before I explore anything more or study again. Right, and I think because I knew study again had broadly 2 options for me. I can't now become a doctor or whatever, right? Broadly 3 options, in fact. One was sort of doing an MS, which was completely out. By end of sort of mid of second year, I realized ye to nahi hone wala. There's no way this is going to work out, right? There were no grades to support that in any fashion, right? I think the MBA was another, but that I knew can happen later, right? The third was something like a UPSC, etc. But I mean, I didn't have that inclination at that point. So.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your Ahmedabad journey now, right? What exactly made you think that, this is the right place for me? And did you think that, oh my God, I am Ahmedabad. Now I am in the top leagues and this is going to change my life. Did that thought come to your mind?
Yeah, so people said the same thing before undergrad. So now it was very clear that there are no life-changing moments. But having said that, I think it changes your own life, but don't see it as, you sort of walk in, getting out of an auto and you'll walk out in an Audi. वो नहीं होने वाली है, right? That's not going to happen. But you might feel like, oh, now I can do something to get into an Audi, right? That's the difference, to be honest, right? My decision to go into any of the IIMs was twofold. One was I wanted to shift my entire career from being in investment banking to something else, right? Management consulting was definitely the number one choice at that point in my mind. And I didn't want to go outside India. I felt a lot more at ease working in India, and I thought that opportunity was there. And I think third thing was the startup scene was not that big at that point. So then naturally the MBA seemed to be a natural course of sort of allowing me to make that shift.
So was there a gap, like a substantial gap between your IIT and IIM Ahmedabad journey, or you did it right after that?
No, I worked for 3 years.
Right. And where did you work for 3 years after IIT?
So I was with Deutsche Bank for about 3 years. Worked with them, understood so much about investment banking. Before that, everything was just in the movies, and what you read in the papers. But when you go in, you realize so many more things. I've studied civil engineering, right? So I was sure that I didn't want to sort of continue in that, right? And amongst sort of the other options, investment banking seemed like a very lucrative sort of place to go to. And if you're not doing core, you might as well explore some of the big fields at that point. And that's how I got in. Plus, I had a cousin who had done well, etc., and told me things and felt like, okay, this is a good place to go in.
Right. So, abhi aate hai IIM Ahmedabad pe. So, when you went in there, what kind of people did you interact with? Like, आपको लगा कि अच्छा ये हमारी लीग के लोग हैं, ऐसे चल जाएगा, मतलब 2 साल निकाल लेंगे यहाँ पे, अच्छे से पढ़ाई कर लेंगे, और did you feel like, oh fuck, ये कौन लोग हैं, मतलब I तो don't even belong here? What was the kind of feeling there?
No, I think I met a lot of people who were in a different phase of their life, right? And I met folks who are coming in immediately after undergrad. Right? Folks who have worked 3 years, 4 years, 5 years and then coming in there. A lot more, I think, mature audience who had a more clearer thought on ab mujhe life mein kya karna hai. Right? At that point, see, I always have this thing around, you might have some clarity on what I want to do in 2 years time, for 5 years time. That can keep changing, right? Every 6 months you can change your next 2-year plan. That's fine. But before that in undergrad, you don't even have a plan. 4 साल का क्या मतलब? मुझे तो अगले हफ्ते का प्लान नहीं पता, मैं 4 साल का क्या सोचूं.
मैं तो हर बार 6 महीने का प्लान बनाता हूँ, फिर अगले 6 महीने में सेम मिस्टेक कर देता हूँ, फिर बनता ही नहीं है कुछ. So was that for you also?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, went into sort of MBA thinking I'll do X, ended up doing Y, but was much more at ease कि यार एक plan तो है, right? So that was sort of the mindset with which entered B school.
Right. And whoever goes to a B school like IIM Ahmedabad, dreams of starting off as a consultant, right? Consulting career is where the, वो dart boards होते हैं ना, so people go there in IIM Ahmedabad कि यार एक dart board set करते हैं अपने room में और रोज़ मारते हैं कि यही consulting ही मारना है मुझे. But you got that opportunity, you got a summer internship with McKinsey, you got a PPO, right? And then you decided you don't want to take it. क्या हुआ? Do you want to share that story with us?
Sure. Actually, I want to correct that a bit. I think people don't come into IIM thinking कि उनको consulting करना है. People come into IIM thinking अब मुझे 1 करोड़ की जॉब लगने वाली है. Especially everybody around you saying कि मतलब 1 करोड़ की जॉब तो अब लग ही जाएगी क्योंकि सबकी लगती है. ना तो natural है, right? I had the good fortune of doing an internship and working closely with Vinita Singh actually, right? And she was the first person said 1 crore की जॉब छोड़ दी for entrepreneurship at that point, right? तो मुझे पता था कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं है.
Vinita, we are talking about Sugar Cosmetics.
Yeah. Okay. In my mind, so a lot of people don't enter in with that. In my mind, because I had seen that sort of phase at the 4th year of undergrad, it was there कि okay, now amongst sort of the options that open in, consulting might be the most interesting one. And that's why my target was also that during the summer placement process. So the 2 years after the first year, you do a summer internship, and for that you have a elaborate sort of interviewing process, which is a summer placement process, right? Which happens somewhere in the middle of your first year. So the target for that was consulting only. So yeah, so went through that, got an opportunity to work with McKinsey & Company for two months. Excellent opportunity, I must say, right? Really enjoyed it, and hence did not sit for any laterals or anything in my finals. So what happens is, just to elaborate, after the end of first year, you do a summer internship. If you get a pre-placement offer, it means that you can join that company after your program ends, after the end of second year. If not, if you want to take it, great. If you don't want to take it, you also get to sit directly for placements in the final year. I didn't sit for that placements, thinking कि यार consulting ही करना है, मजे हैं, बढ़िया हो गया. Life is set वाला moment feel हुआ था.
Absolutely.
At that point.
What happened then? Like after that, you know, when you don't sit for lateral placements and you don't take up the final placements also from the institute, how do you go about finding a job now? And when you are seeing that all your batchmates are getting placed in such big companies, they maybe are getting the 1 crore package that you were eyeing, right? So, फिर कैसा लगता है? What is the feeling like?
Very honestly, I was heading to McKinsey full time. That's the truth, right? I had again the fortune of having a lot of time at hand between graduating and joining the company. At that point, the startup scene was coming up. And when I said it's coming up, people were taking risk in their careers to do that, right? So people in consulting, banking, large brands, etc. were going into startups, right? Startups तो थी, हमेशा रही हैं, right? I actually happened to do two things. One was I spent around 20 to 25 days with a friend. He's a batchmate from IIM Ahmedabad. He was setting up a canteen in Tamil Nadu, and I had a lot of time in hand, so I said, "Chalo, milte hain." And then he said, "No, you have to do work, right?" I said, "Chalo, karte hain. What work can it be? मतलब क्या एक Excel sheet बनाना होगा, वो बना लेंगे or whatever." When there, and it was so hands-on that I was really interested in, you know, what was this thing which, you know, we were getting to decide everything from, you know, कौन सा grinder लेना है, इडली का pricing क्या करना है, because we were setting a canteen in you know, a college campus. And that really got me intrigued in, oh, this startup world is very interesting because you get to do those things. That's when you realize a lot about yourself. Oh, okay, these operational stuff really makes you happy. So I came back, I said I didn't want to do anything there. I want to still be based out of Mumbai. Again, got an opportunity to work with a startup as an intern. Right? And that's how it started, because then I got a flavor of it.
Which startup was it? Oh.
So this was a company called as Arbus, which was sort of renamed to Limo. This was like an Uber for buses kind of model in Mumbai.
Okay.
And I joined them as an intern but this time I had said, yeah, if it works out, are you okay to hire me full time, right? Because I didn't want to do another internship and then try the third place, because I realized a few things. It's a lot about the people you work with, right? It's a lot about what problems and responsibilities you get to work on. Right? With these two things becoming clearer and clearer during my time there, I realized I don't want to go into management consulting, and I want to be doing the startup journey.
It's a huge jump, you know. I mean, it's a so वो बोलते हैं ना कि एक leap of faith लेना होता है life में. And when you are standing at a point where you have invested so much in a B school degree, and the brand is there, like it's an IIMA that we're talking about, right? And there is a job from McKinsey that's at stake, and from there you decided to join a fairly unknown startup. That too, it's not a big startup that people know, right?
I think they just closed their first round of investment, actually.
Right. So how do you make that decision? How do you tell yourself and justify yourself and the people who are expecting such big things in life from you?
It's definitely a leap of faith that I took, no doubt about it. But if I think of it now as a founder, I think the company folks were also taking a massive leap of faith, because all of this comes with sort of certain compensation, certain ye ki mujhe ye expectation and all of that, and they were very, very accommodating of that. So it was a two-way thing, enabled by, you know, kya bolte hain, trial period of sort of month and a half-ish for both sides to then say ki chalo karte hain ye. And another thing I would add is, sure, there is all of sort of these expectations, etc. But safety net to hai. That's what people around me are saying. My degree to hai na. So you keep thinking, arey degree to hai, haan.
So degree is the safety net, like for sure, in your life.
I think the way I look at it is, it helps you to get to a conversation, right? Like for example, right? I'm just saying, like you called me here, right? We've never spoken, whatever. I could be doing really badly, right? I'm now doing okay-ish.
Is he doing okay? What do you think? Are you guys enjoying? Yes, super.
Thank you so much, right? But that's the thing, right? It helps you get to a conversation, right? So that's where I feel the degree helps beyond other things, right? I mean, I have no doubt that the kind of friends I've met and where they are and what what they share, the perspectives, etc. is great. Beyond all of that, I also met my wife over there at IIM Ahmedabad, right? And we also together run Zouk, right? So all of that is definitely sort of the big things that I would take from there.
You met your wife at IIM Ahmedabad?
Yeah, we were batchmates.
Oh, lovely. Can you share something about it? Do you want to you want to tell us how this happened? Like, were you guys sure like it was campus romance brewing, or it's just happened after you guys were graduating?
No, we were sort of dating during campus, right? And then we just continued on that life journey together.
5 point someone and 2 states. Great.
Reverse 2 states actually in our case, right? So I'm the South Indian and...
lovely. Oh, you are a South Indian. Yeah, oh, lovely. Yeah. You went to McKinsey, right? You went in the office of McKinsey and then you walk in to an Arbus ka office. What was that office like?
It's okay. I mean...
Okay office. In Bombay?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that first day like? When you went in there, the expectations that were set? This I'm talking about when you were full-time, like you were not an intern now.
But no, they had a good office and all of that. But I think that's what it does. When you do 3 years of sort of work ex between undergrad and sort of postgrad, you realize what is it that you want out of it, right? Then the fancy office, the travel was a big thing during undergrad days. You get to catch flights. Now I'm like, 6 a.m. flight I have to catch, 5 a.m. I have to be at airport, 4:30 I have to leave home. It's impossible, right? It's the perk suddenly changes into a burden, right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes the travel is also good over there. So, and I mean the quality of work they do, at what level they do is phenomenal, to be honest, right? In consulting. So if people are aspiring for that, I would definitely urge you to take that as a career choice. But for me, that was the first project at Arbus. Very interesting because I got to meet a lot of folks saying, hey, tumko whiteboard mein kya chahiye? No, people have only some opinions, but people are willing to share the opinion. Whiteboard ke opinion se kya change ho jayega, right? But that was the first project, right? But from there, we did a bunch of things, really on the ground, right? So me and the co-founder has gone, spoken to drivers, given them training, understood their problems, given flyers, hand out flyers in streets outside corporate houses and all. We've done all of that, and by that time, within first 2 months, you realize कि यार ये सब करने से भी मजा आ रहा है, because you're able to make real impact. Then all is well.
Can we safely say, Pradeep, that because of this experience of yours with Arbus, you got a sense of how startups work in general, and that made you feel like someday I will also be a part of this. I'll also build something from scratch.
Yeah, I think 2 things to that. As you rightly said, one is how is the startup world, and second is am I comfortable working in the startup environment. Both of them got solved, and also the startup world is actually different layers, to be honest, right? And probably the easiest way, and no, I wouldn't say the right way, but still the easiest way to look at it is how much funding or how many rounds of funding have happened, because the rounds of funding also tells you the maturity of the organization, right?
Right.
At the early stage, there is like literally, anybody has to do everything. कि भाई whiteboard solve करो, ये कहाँ से मिलेगा, पानी कहाँ से आएगा, all of that. Founders are also solving for it, right? As the sort of company gets built, there's a little bit more clarity कि भाई हमारा company का vision, mission क्या है, etc. Then the type of work also changes.
पहले whiteboard fix करने हैं, फिर vision mission set करते हैं.
नहीं, it's an evolving thing, but then you want to write out your version 1 and then erase it.
तो उसके लिए whiteboard पहले चाहिए.
हाँ.
Correct. So what happened in your life after Arbus? You spent around 1.5 years there.
So we tried a bunch of things. Unfortunately, we couldn't scale it up. So then we had to sort of shut shop.
It's a failure, right? Then you started off with a startup that you could not scale, and that's definitely a failure in your career. And I'm a believer that because of these failures, you learn a lot, right? What was your learning from this that you took, which made you feel that मैंने जैसा सोचा था startup ecosystem इतना easy नहीं है?
you learn a lot of things from failures, and there's not one or two, right? I mean, see, for example, over there we had a bunch of very happy customers, right? But that bunch was not big enough, for example, right? The second was, just because we are, and this is something I keep telling my folks even today, just because you're working hard doesn't mean you have the right to exist as a company, right? The customer has to be happy. Even if you work less, it doesn't matter. But the customer has to be happy with what you're offering, and then you'll exist. If that base is bigger, then you become bigger. So those things we learned at that point, right? So it was good sort of time spent over there.
So now coming back to what happened after Arbus, what were you focusing on after this stint? What did you think that your next big career leap going to be?
So I think at that point, I realized I want to be in the startup world. I didn't want to go into large conglomerates or any of the other sort of sectors that open up at that point. So, and I felt, hey, let's go to the other side, which is the venture capital side.
Thoda explain kar sakte hain, what is venture capital? Why did you think that venture capital will be the right fit for our audiences? Sure.
So at a high level, venture capital firms invest in young companies, right? Typically giving them money in turn for equity in the business, which is particular share. Like now all of them have seen Shark Tank. They understand this better than us.
सबके घर पे discussion होती है equity की.
Right? But you can say venture capital were the OGs of that, right? Where they were putting money into companies, investing into startups that once they grow, the companies can get a good exit out of it. A venture capitalist role varies across sort of levels. Typically, most of them are trying to find new companies, exciting founders, working on exciting new ideas, and saying that why, and this is what I learned at VC, when you're outside you don't hear it this way, but inside you hear this, that you are trying to sell a bag of money to an exciting founder, because exciting founders and companies have multiple options, right? So you're trying to say why they should be working with you, right? And trying to invest into them and grow together as a partner with them.
So you wanted to offer that bag to startups now?
I didn't have enough experience to offer back, but I wanted to still get a flavor of that, right?
You understood that startups बढ़ रहे हैं, startups को पैसे की ज़रूरत है, and if we invest in good startups, we are going to be beneficial, right? So what exactly happened in that period? What all were the startups that you were investing or you thought of investing, and how did your learning take shape from there?
Yeah, no, I think I had a very exciting time, because what happens as a VC is, one is you get to meet founders of top-notch quality, right? They share things that you might not even have thought about it that way, right? And the amount of clarity, like you can read a 1,000-page book to understand a particular sector, and then a founder will come with one slide to explain ki bhai, this is what I'm doing because this is what is the problem in that sector. Amazing level of articulation, because they're living, breathing, the idea and the company and the team and all of that, right? So I met a bunch of them over conversations, understood how they looked at businesses, right? And over a period of time, realized that I actually enjoyed building a lot more at that point, because I was not mature enough to do that, right? I have so less experience. How am I going to guide somebody who's a lot more passionate, knows the problem better, telling them how to do things better, right? It's not possible. So I think that's what I realized by the end of it, and then said, hey, I want to take a more operator role, right? And that's when I shifted out of the VC world.
Right. And from there, you jumped to Browser Stack, right? Yeah. What was your role at Browser Stack, and why did you think that this is going to be a logical, switch in my career that I need to take?
They were building a team which was a bunch of generalists as the company was growing, right? I met a couple of them. One of them was my batchmate as well, who was already there, and realized that this was an exciting set of folks coming together as generalists in a company that had a lot more sort of developers, product managers, sales folks. And that seemed like an interesting opportunity to me. They were going through a very exciting phase. BrowserStack, by the way, is a massive business, created true value for customers, had global customers, having built a business from India, etc. And hence I thought that was a nice way for me to learn more on that side.
What exactly were you doing? Like in the entire wheel, what was your role?
So I started off in the business operations team, which is, think of it this way, that if there are business problems that the company needs somebody to help with. It could be projects of anywhere between sort of 1 month to 3 months to 6 months sort of projects. You put in a generalist to try to solve that problem with first-hand principles, right? Started with that, but I had entered in saying कि यार मुझे थोड़े time में एक line role दे दो, which is to lead something. It can be small, large, medium size, whatever, but give me something that I can exclusively lead. That's what I wanted to do. So that happened after sort of 6 months, where I set up their first demand generation team.
When did this living room chat or discussion happened with you and your wife that, Abhi, you have worked in a lot of places, you have garnered a lot of experiences, and you also said to her कि अच्छा तुझे भी ज़रूरत है. I think you need someone who, who can handle this position that is open, and let me join with you. कैसा था वो conversation? When did you decide that, you want to be part of Zouk, and how big was Zouk at that point in time?
There was definitely I could see the passion with which she and her team were building Zouk, right? There's a lot of customer love that was there, though the base was very small, right? Base was small, but then there was still a lot of customer love, etc. Interestingly, this conversation of joining sort of happened, I would say, around end of February 2020. So imagine the timing, right? End of February 2020. I was like, अरे March 2020
lockdown आ गया.
हाँ, निकल सकते हैं ऐसा कुछ सोचा था, and then the lockdown happens. We're operating in the non-essentials e-commerce side. I think at that point we actively got to sort of think about the problem more and more, approach more and more, talk to customers, understand what was working, not working, and then during that whole phase, I think we realized let's work together. And she was gracious enough to say, चलो आ जाओ, यहाँ पे भी आ जाओ भी और करो, देखते हैं.
How is it like 24 hours, either you are, घर की बातें कर रहे हो या फिर company की बातें कर रहे हो? How does that feel?
First principles approach, you say, okay, so let's do this. 7 PM तक काम की बात करेंगे. 7 PM के बाद no work talk, right? That's how we started. Maybe we'll try that or something, right? But then we met a few sort of couple founders and said, ये नहीं चलता है boss, right? It's your life's work. You will be continuously talking. The only good thing you have is one partner will not think, why is the other partner always talking about all of these things? Only customer acquisition, product improvement, growth, all of that, hiring, right? You'll now be like, oh हाँ, बात तो करना ही पड़ेगा. अरे ये क्यों नहीं सोचा? Is immediate response that comes from the other side.
बीच में grocery shopping भी आ जाएगी. नहीं.
बीच में maid आएगी कि टमाटर खत्म हो गए हैं, right? So like चलो ठीक है, right? So all of those things also happen, but that's okay. And now we've sort of made it a bit more natural in terms of how things get done, both at sort of home as well as at work. But we realized that there is no sort of separation of there is no work. I don't want to say there's no work-life balance. There definitely is there, right? But it's work and life together that you balance out. I was founder of a company for even 1 year, 2 years. The respect for that candidate is actually higher today. That's the truth, right? Because there is a lot of respect for just people who have gone through that journey. But success, failure is immaterial.